Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 56 of the Teal Tinted Glasses Hockey Podcast. Tonight live episode being hosted on the Pucknology Writers Room channel. Today, I'm going to stop making this thing happen here. And I can hear myself, and this is ridiculous. This is the worst show ever. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, we decided to do a live show today because the big trades that happened today, and there's kind of like some asking for a show, and I'm like, but I got TTG, so I thought we'd do kind of better by kind of just merging both. So Wendell unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight, so that's why I'm hosting. In his place, we have actually a two-headed monster of Erik Kuhre.
And welcome to... Oh, wait, that's somebody else's line, my bad. Thank you for having me on, Ian. Appreciate it.
And also AJ Strong.
Because Wendell is so awesome, it takes two guys to take his place.
That's right.
And as always, Rocket Backhander.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now that your captain has turned off the no smoking sign, please feel free to roam about the cabin. And also, there's still no smoking, so never mind.
Absolutely. All right, let me just set this up as I have my son talking. So it's basically a normal episode except for we're on live. Basically, there might be a couple times where we'll take a stop so that Wendell can put in production pieces and make cool music, and all this will be on iTunes tomorrow. So, all right, sorry about that. Okay.
Yeah, good luck editing that out, Wendell.
Yeah, good luck editing my son out.
Paw Patrol.
All right, so yes, I wish Paw Patrol was on. Crap. Well, this is the worst show ever. Okay, so look, it was a massive day in the NHL. There was basically three colossal things that happened with the span of 32-ish minutes, which is crazy. Like, I don't know, July 1st, everyone go enjoy time with your family because nothing's going to happen. Let's start off with Taylor Hall being traded from the Edmonton Oilers to the New Jersey Devils for Adam Larsson straight up.
Boy, I love how Chiarelli in his presser today was just trying to... Well, he was in full CYA mode, man. Full CYA. How are you going to be the only GM in history to trade the number 1 and the number 2 picks from the same draft? That's just awesome. That's
insanity.
That takes a special type of rhetorical skill to be able to pull that off.
Holy crap.
Go ahead, Rocket.
No, I just am in shock. Not shock, but yeah, I guess shock. That's a weird thing to say about a hockey trade, but sure. Whole day's just been really kind of surprising.
Well, what are we talking about here? I mean, we're a number 1 forward or a top line forward going to
elite forward, I would argue.
Yeah, a pretty elite forward being traded for what? A guy who's probably a 3-4 defenseman, if maybe in a couple years if we're lucky.
No, I don't know. I don't think that's incredibly fair. I think Adam Larsson could be a number 2 guy. I don't know about a number 1 guy, but I think Adam Larsson could easily be a number 2 guy. Played a lot of tough minutes over in New Jersey. Obviously, not exactly the best team over there in New Jersey either. So I think that there's some upside here, but it's not that this is bad because they got Adam Larsson. It's just the fact that they got Adam Larsson and nothing else. That's the part that I can't wrap my head around. Erik, what do you think?
That's the part that makes no sense to me, is that if it's straight up and Hall is such an elite forward, I mean, he was in the All-Star game last year for the Pacific Division, and you're giving him up for a guy that could be a number 2 defenseman? I'm sorry, but at this point, you could have gotten a lot more out of Taylor Hall rather than maybe a middle pair defenseman at the best from a team that didn't make the playoffs. It's not like this is like Justin Braun or Paul Martin. I mean, yeah, the guy has a chance to be like that, but Hall is so far and ahead, way better from him, and he didn't get a pick or anything to go with it. Is absolutely larceny. I mean, I thought Joe Thornton trade was a steal when he came to San Jose, but this takes the cake.
Let me ask you this for a second. Do you think that McClellan was behind this at any point? Do you think after a season of McClellan and Hall, maybe McClellan, there was something in Hall that just wasn't jiving with McClellan?
That's a good question.
That is a good question. You know
See,
what?
that's what I'm here for. It's good questions, man.
Here's what I think. I think that when the Oilers had Jesse Puljujarvi fall into their lap, I think it made a lot more players expendable. We knew they were going to make a trade for a defenseman. We knew that guys like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Nelia Yakupov and maybe even Jordan Eberle were up to be had. I feel like when they had Jesse Puljujarvi fall into their lap, it just made that list bigger. And I don't think without Puljujarvi, I don't think Hall's available if you don't get that pick in the draft. So I think that from that respect, I don't know if it's just an issue. I just think it was getting Puljujarvi made them more open to making that kind of a move where they could trade a Taylor Hall, because now you have a guy like Puljujarvi who could be just as good as Hall waiting in the wings. Any other thoughts on that? Overall thoughts?
I mean, yeah, Puljujarvi made Hall expendable, but at the same time, did you really need to draft another forward, Edmonton?
Well,
I mean,
none of the.
the Detroit Lions were known for like drafting wide receivers in the 2000s, and now you get Edmonton is just like forward.
Hey, you go with what you know.
I guess. I mean, when I look at Edmonton, when I look at the defensemen in the draft class this year, I really like Juolevi, but I don't know if Juolevi is an NHL defenseman next year. I don't know if Jacob Chekrin's an NHL defenseman next year. Sergachev, maybe. I don't think there was any slam dunk, this guy's in the NHL next year defenseman to bring in. And so, and bringing in Adam Larsson, at least you're bringing in some experience. It's not that I don't like Adam Larsson. I just think that it's a lopsided trade. I mean, I have in my notes who won bracket, LOL, and it's clearly New Jersey. New Jersey wins, this going away. This is, New Jersey fleeced it. Like, excuse Puck Guy's pun, but it's larceny. It's absolute larceny. So, I mean, everyone agrees with me, I think, that this is, that New Jersey won this trade going away. Any dissenting opinions?
Well, I'm the first one to say that, we can always judge trades up front. And there was a decent amount of people, if you go back to 2005, there was a decent amount of people that said Thornton for Sturm, Primo, and Stewart, that for what Boston needed and wanted at the time, and for what the Sharks wanted at the time, that it was very beneficial to both teams, and it worked out. Obviously, now in hindsight, the Sharks completely fleeced Boston. That's the whole thing. It's up front, face value, yeah. New Jersey absolutely just did Edmonton wrong. But let's talk about this trade 5, 6, 7 years from now and what each component has meant to the team.
No, and I don't disagree with that. I mean, obviously, time will tell. If Larsson can become a number 2 guy, or even a number 1 guy. I don't think he's a number 1 guy. I think he's a 2 guy. But if he can become that 2 guy, and that helps put them into a more competitive situation, then obviously this will be a great trade for Edmonton. But yeah, it's just I don't like it right now. So moving on, literally like 10 minutes later, after we thought, wow, this is absolutely crazy, and that's the capper of like free agency. PK Subban gets traded from the Montreal Canadiens for Shea Weber. Again, straight up.
The thing that surprises me about this, it's not Subban leaving the Canadiens. It seemed like it had been talked about for I don't even know how long, that
right.
Subban's time in Montreal was short. Mm-hmm. But holy crap, dude! To trade the face of the franchise, your captain, the guy who's been there what seemingly seems like forever, and your powerhouse defenseman for Nashville. I understand that there's something going on with Subban and Montreal. I've heard speculation on Sirius NHL that maybe he's just not the right guy in the room. I still don't understand why you trade a stud in Subban for, not that Weber isn't a stud, but is on the wrong side of 30. I don't get that, how that's a straight up trade. I don't understand how Nashville didn't throw a little bit more on the fire to make that deal go through. But maybe that's just how much Montreal wanted to get rid of Subban.
Yeah, maybe they needed to get somebody who wasn't such a larger-than-life personality. Somebody, like, who just wasn't so great. Somebody who blend in more seamlessly with a group photo instead of just this one man who is larger than the entire program. It makes it easier for people to buy into something like that,
And that's what a lot of people in Montreal said from management, as like, well, PK is, all about PK per se, and that I get, and I understand where they're coming from, but the talent that he has,
Are you trying to say he was kind of like a Barry Bonds of Montreal?
I'm not saying that. That's what management in Montreal was trying to imply. And I think after that one Colorado game where PK was trying, I think, a little too hard to try to get something going for his team, and it led to the eventual game winner, and he got benched. It definitely led to, I think, some rumblings with him and Michel Therrien, and I think that's probably where things really started to fall apart. But I straight up for PK, I am very surprised, even for Weber.
Yeah, look, there's a couple of things I want to touch out from like what both you and Rocket said. I get the personality, and I get that hockey's filled with a lot of old school guys where you gotta you can't be bigger than the team, like PK Subban, and there's also some media issues. Like there's some really old white curmudgeons in the mainstream media that follow Quebec, who, when PK made the donation to the hospital, they criticized him because he didn't do it anonymously. Like, the guy just gave $10 million to a children's hospital, and you're going to criticize because he didn't do it anonymously? That's ridiculous. Hockey needs more guys like PK Subban. They need more guys like Brent Burns.
Yes.
They need personalities. And what the big winner is for this right now is actually the U.S. TV market, because now they're going to get a lot more PK Subban, and that is exactly what more Americans need to see, is guys like that who have personality, and you can sell as if their brand. Look at, you look at the at other sports, you look at the NBA, especially, the NBA, the NFL especially, people know names. They know names more than they know teams. And that sells in the States. And maybe it's not the greatest thing for, up in Canada where you have, old school dummies that, want to keep the game in the Stone Age forever. But in the States, that's a huge deal.
No, that's a great point, because like I said, I was listening to Sirius earlier. They were talking about how there's certain players that they know that the name, like the casual, way casual NHL fan, they know the name of the player, but they wouldn't be able to tell you what team he plays for.
Right.
But at least they know the name.
They wouldn't even be able to tell you if he was a forward or a defenseman.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might know Sidney Crosby's a good player because they've been told Sidney Crosby's a good player over and over and over again, but but they don't. Could they tell you anything about Sidney Crosby other than that he's a great player? Probably not. Whereas PK Subban, people know that he's this crazy guy who does Don Cherry impressions and donates money
phenomenal.
to great,
phenomenal Don Cherry impression.
What the game needs. They need guys that can come in and be personalities. And I know it pisses off the curmudgeon-y old guys, but this is what hockey needs.
Wasn't there another pretty huge name that Nashville had a couple seasons ago that also ended up being moved? I want to say to Minnesota or something.
Well, they moved
Suter, right?
Suter.
Yeah, they moved. Yeah. They lost Suter as a restricted free agent, and and Nashville also just traded Ryan Johansson for Seth Jones. So there's that too.
But at least at this point, though, when it comes to like the casual Nashville fan, everybody's so used to equating Shea Weber with Nashville at this point. So it's like Pekka Rinne and who? You know, when it comes to Nashville.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. I know a lot of people are like really talking about like, you know, all suddenly, you know, Shea Weber's a terrible defenseman. He's not a terrible defenseman. Shea Weber is a great defenseman. But when you're trading for PK Subban, I'm sorry, PK Subban is a better defenseman. And I know people are going to say, oh, but he gets picked for the Olympic teams and I get that.
The complaint that I've heard from people who actually live in Tennessee and are somewhat hockey fans is the way that they take it. They're very sentimental, and the way that they take it is they are disappointed and they feel a little bit abandoned, or not abandoned, but betrayed by management for trading the captain away.
But you know what? Now, and I would counter that with that. I have a funny feeling that if Shea Weber was still around next year, Shea Weber didn't have a no-move clause. Chances are, he's going on he was going on the expansion block. They were probably going to leave him unprotected because here's the thing about Shea Weber, and it's not that he's a bad player, but he's not as good as PK in my opinion. PK's better now, better tomorrow, better next week, better in a year. Weber has a terrible contract. Shea Weber carries a $7.8 million cap hit until he is 40.
Yeah,
Subban's current $9 million cap hit, he holds until he is 32. Who is better value at the end of that contract?
But he's the captain. That's what I'm saying.
But
it matters to the casual hockey fan in Tennessee. That's what I'm saying.
No, I totally agree with that. But see, that's why I'm still wondering, like, why does Montreal make this deal?
Because they're dumb.
Well, no, but see, this
Neanderthals.
Well, this goes back, like I said, this goes back to the point that I was making earlier. It's like, man, Subban really must have worn out his welcome for them to make that deal when Weber has such that contract. I mean, I remember all the weren't there like two guys in Minnesota that got like ridiculous deals, like
Suter and
Parise.
Yeah, Parise. They got. See, listen, you can even hear. All I had to say was Suter and Parise, and Ian's kid just started having a meltdown because those contracts were that bad. So I really wish, and of course the NHLPA would probably never allow this, and I'm sure Ian will be able to pontificate it on it more. But can we get a cap on contract lengths, because some of these, there is now.
Yes.
Was that same deal in place prior to Parise and Suter getting those ridiculous deals?
No, it was the last CBA came in. So what happens now is any deal that was signed after the last CBA, you can sign another team's player for 7 years, or you can sign your own player for 8. That is the max.
Okay. Yeah, because some of these. Yeah, you saw some of these ridiculous deals, like, the fact that Pronger is still getting a paycheck. Come on, man.
Yeah, to me, the problem I have is because Montreal, fans there, like the media, the mainstream media is celebrating. The fans there are absolutely losing their minds. I went to the SB Nation Habs blog, Habs Eyes on the Prize. Great blog, by the way. And in the comment section for the story, like, there are some people they're just like, I'm done. And I'm not, normally I can pretty much weather any storm as a fan, but if the Sharks did something, if the Sharks had a PK Subban guy and tossed him away for an older, not as good, terrible contract player, man, I would be questioning I don't blame them for questioning their fandom. I don't believe in the true fan nonsense, but I don't blame them for questioning their fandom at this point.
I mean, even sorry, AJ, but even on TSN radio in Montreal, I mean, they are just straight up shocked, and they have the same sentiments. It's like, okay, we're trading him because he was a great defenseman, a great offensive-minded defenseman. Tell me why. There's got to be more than something with this, and it can't be just an extra $1.2 million on the salary cap. There's got to be no way.
Yeah. Breaking news. Carey Price has just been traded to the Avalanche straight up for Varlamov. Because that makes about the same amount of sense right now.
Think about in Montreal what they've gone through the last 20 years. They saw Waugh say, "Trade me right leaping now." You saw them trade Carbonneau, Koivu, Vinny Domfus. We know very well. They've traded like 3 or 4 captains in a row. Throw in one of the best goaltenders of all time, perhaps one of the best shining stars on and off the ice right now, and yet they still haven't figured it out.
It's bad. It's bad management. It's just flat out bad management. You have Michael Terry. You basically took a guy who is, has Randy Carlyle levels of love from his team, like from anyone following his team, over PK Subban. That's really that's what you've done, right? You've kept PK Subban over Michael Therrien because you should have fired Michael Therrien last year, and now you've kept Michael Therrien over PK Subban. That makes no sense. And yes, Shea Weber is a nice get. Shea Weber is a great player, but this deal is awful.
And with that, I will say, outstanding. Moving on.
All right. So the last thing that happened in the 32 minutes of insanity was Steven Stamkos almost went under the radar by re-signing with the Tampa Bay Lightning, $8.5 million over the next 8 years.
Dude, how pissed off is Detroit making that draft day deal now?
Yeah, and the draft
Toronto.
Toronto. You see, Toronto's an interesting one. I'm glad you brought Toronto up. I'll let you go around the table first before I get to that, though.
Okay.
So overall thoughts, Eric, go ahead.
I mean, I was listening to TSN radio for like the whole year, and they would have advertisements on their station saying, "Today is September 21st, 2015. Free agency is only 422 days away." And Steven Stamkos is still without a contract. This reminder is brought to you by TSN 1050 Toronto. It's
welcome to Contract Watch 2015.
I mean, for crying out loud, seriously, let's not be too obvious, especially since TSN is owned by Bell. Bell owns part of the Leafs. I mean, we're not like wink, wink, hint, hint here.
You do the math.
And it's like everybody in Toronto like, no, what are we gonna do now? We tanked for Matthews. We were supposed to get the other part. Now what the hell are we gonna do?
Yep.
Rocket?
About what? This
Steven
whole
Stamkos.
contract with the Steven Stamkos. Everybody wanted him, and I think that the Lightning probably knew it, and I think that they were looking for some kind of deal that would have upset the entire NHL community more than the PK Subban trade, and I don't think they could come up with that. So they were just like, "Fine, let's just pay him, whatever." So they paid him, and they shut everyone up.
AJ.
I don't follow the Lightning enough to to weigh in too much, but I guess if you look in at all the kind of outlying aspects of it, where it's like, well, there's no state income tax in Florida, that makes that a little bit more advantageous, and it's in a place where it's like, well, I don't have to uproot my life. I'm already entrenched here. Pretty much already beloved in the Tampa Bay area. I mean, and not to mention the fact that Tampa Bay is competitive, right? And they've got a pretty badass goaltender versus, and Tampa has been to won the Cup in 2004. Didn't they go to the final last year?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they did.
So I mean, they did pretty decently in the playoffs this season. So it's that idea of trying to build something there versus going to Toronto, who has not won a cup in my lifetime. And it hasn't been competitive in my lifetime. So, and who wants to be, for all we know, there are probably certain hockey players, I think if you were to ask Joe Thornton or Patrick Marleau, they have the personality of, it's great to live in the Bay Area where it's not the hockey hotbed where you're under a microscope 24/7. It's nice to just enjoy this beautiful weather we have, and to, for the most part, be able to walk around, come here, go there, and for the most part, not really be recognized. Although now Thornton and that beard, probably a little harder not to get recognized from that. But I would assume that Stamkos probably enjoys that same kind of vibe in Tampa, where he can kind of come and go as he pleases and not be bothered by anybody. Who wants to be under a microscope? How many times have we seen a player go to Toronto that was a highly touted player and just crumble under the pressure?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's been a lot. So maybe Stamkos gets, I don't know, another million more if he goes to Toronto or Detroit. Like I said, I think Detroit is the ones that are really ticked off in this deal. And I know that Ian pointed out something that the NHLPA has to be a little upset about this. So go ahead, man.
Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Just before I get to that, though, I want to just kind of touch on the signing a little bit. I think, obviously the state tax is obviously big, huge factor. The 8.5 million 8 years. He could have gotten more. He could have gotten 10, maybe even 11 on the open market. But let's say he goes to Toronto, and so let's say he gets his $10 million or whatever, $9 million, and he gets his whatever deal on the side from like one of their under umbrella for a sponsorship deal. You look at that and you say, okay, that's great, but he's in Ontario, so now you're talking about that, that $10 million, maybe that becomes, $5 million, and then you add escrow to that. And then that, that other deal that he gets, on the side, let's say it's a $3 million, that becomes like a half, $1.5 million deal after tax. And so, it's not as awesome as it sounds when it all, now he's going to stay in Tampa. He'll still get endorsement deals. He's still Steven Stamkos. It's not like, would he get better endorsement deals in Toronto? Absolutely. But he's still Steven Stamkos. He's incredibly marketable. He'll absolutely get his endorsement deals, and he's going to get to keep most of that money. The other thing about this contract that is absolutely ridiculous is that it's buyout proof / lockout proof. And how does one do that? Well, basically, he takes $1 million as his actual salary. $7.5 million of his cap hit is signing bonus. So a lot of people think like they confuse bonuses with performance bonuses. These aren't performance bonuses. These are guaranteed signing bonuses. And why that's important is because, if you buy out, you get a portion of your salaried contract, which for him is $1 million, so he's not worried about it. The signing bonus has to be paid out regardless of whether the league's locked out or if he's bought out. That doesn't get reduced by a buyout. So no matter what happens, Steven Stamkos will take $7.5 million guaranteed money from the Tampa Bay Lightning that will get taxed less because they'll get taxed at today's tax rates in Florida for the next 8 years. Like it's a beautiful deal. Ryan O'Reilly was the first to get this kind of deal, and you're going to start seeing them a lot more often as this goes.
Well, can I make a couple points?
Absolutely.
Just a quick one from Hockey Jerk saying Stamkos took $1 million raise from the team he captained as opposed to a $3 million raise from a divisional opponent. So that that works out too, and exactly what you said. That's it's also the same. I mean, on a very much smaller scale than what you're talking about, but it's kind of like when I go out and disc jockey at nightclubs. There are some clubs that give me a check at the end of the night, and at the end of the year I get a 1099 and all that stuff. But there are other clubs that I've worked for that you just get cash at the end of the night under the table, don't have to worry about. And it's it's like making if I get $250, $300 at the end of the night cash under the table, it's almost like getting $400. So it's very, very appealing to do that. And when it comes to endorsements and all that, hey, you know what, so he has to endorse a boogie board company instead of Tim Horton. It's all good, man.
Yeah. And
really,
surfboard, boogie board, wetsuits, I don't care.
He's got a representative Publix, the old
just
grocery
a quick
store.
question from the chat. Sleepy Mofo asking, how would this affect the Druin talks? I don't think it's Druin that worried now. If I'm Ben Bishop, on the other hand, I'm packing my bags and looking for a new home, because there's no way with Stamkos getting this contract and the other guys that they need to get under contract that are pending RFAs or upcoming pending RFAs, that I can't see a way that they can keep both Bishop and Vasilevsky under the cap, especially when Bishop's already making, what, 6-something million a year.
Do you think this opens up Tampa to make a run at Reimer?
I don't know if I mean, they might keep Bishop this year. I think Bishop's a UFA after this year, so I think they might ride out the last year of this contract. But there's no way he can come back.
Here's my question though: is do you think that when they open up for the CBA talks, that there might be some type of clause for those who have tax provinces or states, or for that matter, the state of Canada with the Canadian dollar struggling as it is, that they might
just to let you know, Canada's a country, not a state. But yeah,
right.
No. That's what I said. As a province or state or Canada in general. Shut up. My point is that kind of rebalancing out the playing field a bit, because I know when we were in the mess that ended up when we lost the season, many of the Canadian teams were like, okay, we're losing all our big time players, we can barely keep up, we might have to move. And I think we're kind of starting to get closer and closer to that. I mean, because let's be real, today Edmonton lost Taylor Hall.
Yep.
Montreal lost PK.
Mm-hmm.
You can theoretically say Toronto and who knows who else lost out on Stamkos.
Yep.
I don't know, because here's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, the cap is based on revenue, right? It's a 50-50 split between the players and the league of whatever revenue are made. So I don't. It kind of the CBA is already set up for that, because that's why the cap has moved so little this year, is because of that. And I think that with the cap, and the cap could drop. Like the cap is not a thing that is guaranteed to go up. So when you look at things like that, I think that the system in place is just fine. Taylor Hall moving had more to do with the cost of getting a 1-2 defenseman than the cost of Taylor Hall's contract. People don't just give away 1-2 defensemen. You have to pay for them. Taylor Hall was the price. Now, whether I think that New Jersey should have given up more alongside to get Hall, absolutely. But that is the kind of price you can demand when you want to move a 1-2 defenseman. Steven Stamkos staying put. I mean, that's free agency, man. You can't force him to come to Canada. You can't force him to go to Detroit. He has the option. If he's comfortable in Tampa Bay, there's not really much the league can do about that.
Well, and that's been the rub with Edmonton for how long? Is that they've got ridiculous amount of forwards that have super talent, but they've just been garbage on the blue line.
Right, but that's their own doing. I mean, you can't. There's nothing the NHL can do to give them a more favorable playing field. If you can't manage your team properly, your team's going to be bad.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't get more fair. I mean, you've got the best color guy in the world in Edmonton. I mean, come on. I mean, how much easier do we have to make it up there? And has Edmonton gotten a goaltender yet?
Well, they do have
Talbot?
Talbot, and Talbot did look better by the end of the year. Talbot looked really good at the World Championships, although when you have Team Canada in front of you, that might a little bit easy. Right. But I still think Talbot is their guy still, and it'll be interesting to see what he does this year, because I think this year is really going to be telling as to whether Talbot is their guy. But if he's as good as he was last season, at the end of last season, I think they're just fine.
All right. I like Vince G's comment. It was only a matter of time before Edmonton got Chiarelli.
Exactly. And as far as Toronto goes, I know a lot of Leafs fans are upset. When I told my buddy, because he was calling me to talk about the trades, he didn't realize Stamkos got signed, and I told him that Stamkos signed a deal in Tampa, and he was so deflated. Here's the thing, though: Toronto didn't need Steven Stamkos. They're fine. Would it accelerate things? Yeah, of course it would have accelerated things a little bit, and they'd be moved along a little bit. But this team is fine. If they just stay the course, they're going to be fine. Yeah, maybe it takes them an extra year, but I still think the Leafs are fine. All right.
Outstanding. Moving on. And now it's time for Ian's Hockey 101.
Okay. So I had a question today in the Teal Tinted Glasses group on our Facebook group, and I was going to answer it because I shared a link saying that the NHLPA was really unhappy with Steven Stamkos because he decided that to take the deal in Tampa, he didn't break the bank. And so basically, why is the NHLPA upset with Steven Stamkos? To which I replied, okay, so basically here's how it works. The salary cap is, like I just explained, you have the 50% of the revenue goes to players, 50% of the revenue goes to the league. Now, what the players can do to raise the salary cap is they can do what's called the escrow escalator, which I'm sure you've probably heard a lot about. And basically, the escrow escalator means that the players can put an additional 5% of their money into escrow in order to raise the salary cap. Now, what the PA is saying now is that the salary cap is What the PA is saying now is that the salary cap is they raised the salary cap by taking the extra escrow hit. So the players lost money so that a guy like Steven Stamkos could push the bar by taking that $10 million deal, that $11 million deal. Because not only does that raise the value for all his comparables, like John Tavares next year, it also pushes up the price for a guy like Kyle Okposo, who's also a free agent this year. He probably could have pushed Kyle Okposo into being a $7 million guy. By Stamkos not taking the money, he hurt the earning power of the rest of the players. And the other thing is that the NHLPA takes a gamble because that escrow money. Basically, if there's a shortfall between the money that's due to the players and the owners, that's where the money comes from first. It comes out of that escrow account. So the players may not see that money at all. So basically, that's the thing here. So the hometown discount of $8.5 million, basically, it hurts the earning power of the rest of the league. And that's why the NHLPA is unhappy. Because if you're making $8.5 million, 5% in escrow isn't a huge deal. If you're making $2 million, and again we go back to what I was saying about taxes, and now you're taking another 5% and you're throwing it basically into a gambling account, that's scary stuff. So that is Ian's Hockey 101. And another question I was asked to explain was just again quickly gloss over the differences between a unrestricted free agent and a restricted free agent. Restricted free agent is a free agent. They can sign what's called an offer sheet with any other team. The difference is that the team that signs them has to give the other team compensation, and they also have the option to match. A unrestricted free agent is free to sign wherever he wants, and the other team doesn't have to give you compensation. They don't have an option to match. It's basically restricted free agency. You're still your rights are still owned by the player or by your own team. Whereas unrestricted free agency, you own your own rights and you can give them to whoever you want. So since we were talking about the upcoming free agent frenzy and everything else, the Sharks, which is now a complete drop in the bucket, actually started off the day with a pretty significant move, signing pending RFA Tomas Hertl to a two-year $6 million deal with obviously $3 million per season. I will go with Rocket. What are your thoughts?
I like this deal, considering that the last 2 seasons Hertl hasn't been able to finish in the playoffs. I think maybe this kind of has a little bit of a red flag for some people. If not, it should. So a shorter deal kind of we'll see if he's going to pull through and be able to finish, and then maybe make a longer contract from there. I think that's kind of what this says. I don't know. I'm still new to this.
That's all right. Eric, go ahead.
No, Rocky, you hit it right on the head. I mean, it's a 2-year deal. I'm guessing he's still an RFA after the deal's done?
Yes.
So this is his way of earning it. I mean, with 2 significant injuries, I mean, let's be real. If he can hang through it, he would have played in the Stanley Cup final. Something seriously going on here. And then you throw in when Dustin Brown decided to be a dum-dum and take his knee out. I mean, you're looking at two significant injuries. This is a nice pay raise, but if he can progress and be a better goal scorer player, and perhaps that even means showing that outside being with the Joes, I mean, you'll get your pay raise. If not, then we got to think about it.
Was the knee injury that he sustained during the Stanley Cup final? What have we ever gotten clarification if it was the same knee that Dustin Brown took out?
Yeah,
no,
it was.
because they're waiting for. Oh yeah, that you're right. It was. I thought you were gonna ask if there's any what's the severity of it, and we'll never know because Game 6 might get replayed anytime.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I love this deal. It's definitely right in the ballpark money wise for me. Great bridge deal. Still keeps him as an RFA, and it very much is as Rocket said. This is a show me deal. Now, granted, Hertl hasn't had the most luck since he's come in. Obviously, Dustin Brown and then what we saw with the playoffs. But Hertl, up until the Stanley Cup final injury, we saw what happened last season where he was somewhat tentative. And I know at the beginning of this past season, Ian and I had discussed it on a previous cast that during the preseason games, that Hertl, he was playing like the Hertl that we all saw his first season here. He was definitely a lot more confident and everything. The thing that I want to see over these next 2 years, obviously it's great value for right now, and it will show that in 2 seasons or not, he's either going to get paid or he's going to get a pretty decent deal. Probably, unless some sort of bizarre injury, unless he Rafi Torres himself, he should be fine. The only thing that I question with this whole deal is I know it's in the Sharks' long-term plans to move him to be a center, despite how much talent he's shown on the wing, and despite the fact that Hertl has said he's more comfortable as a center, even though he's been more productive as a wing. And granted, it's hard not to be productive when people feeding you the puck are named Pavelski and Thornton, but still, he's going to be the long-term guy at center when Marleau and Thornton have moved on. So it's going to be interesting to see over these next 2 years if that's what we see from the Sharks. That obviously this is a show-me contract. I think I'm wondering, is this going to be show me what you are playing the center position? That's all, Ian.
Yeah, no, and I think that's an excellent point. I think it's absolutely.
It's what I'm here for.
It's a good bridge deal. It's a good contract. You know what I love about this deal is now that this pushes the value for all the other RFAs down. If you're Matt Nieto, how much can you ask for when Tomas Hertl is only making $3 million?
Yeah, 1.8 tops.
1.2. I would even go as low as 1.2.
Yeah, but we know Wilson likes to overpay sometimes. But
that's true. But I think when you're, this is a great deal because look, it gives flexibility going into the Burns contract. Yes, Hertl will need to be paid the next year, but at least when you're initially signing that deal, it's not, you have that extra cushion where you can still kind of fit players and then you can make decisions after that.
Well, let me ask you a quick question,
Go ahead.
because I'm sure you and Puck Guy are definitely more versed in it than I am. Has there been a Sharks player that has broken the $7 million barrier, 7.5? Has anybody, not even Danny Heatley, no one's broken 7?
I think Heatley was probably the closest to
I thought he was 6.9 or something.
He might have been, but at the same time, Doug Wilson didn't sign for that deal. He traded for that deal. So
Exactly.
Yeah, no, but I'm just that was just my whole question was: has there been a Sharks player ever on the roster that has made more, that has broken the 7 mil barrier? I can't think of one. I'm not saying that there isn't one. I'm just saying I can't off the top of my head.
I want to say that maybe Thornton and Marleau had 7s.
Never.
Well, Chris is saying 7.5 for Heatley, but then again, like you said, this was a deal that was traded for, not something that he actually went out and paid. So Burns next season, between now and next season, and between today and a year from today, is Burns the first guy that we see break that $7 million barrier, the $7 million barrier that that Wilson, that he's not trading for and inheriting.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, I need to look. Here's my thoughts though while I look this up.
Especially if he's a Norris nominee again next season.
There's that too, and I think when you're talking, I know I've said this 100 times and I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but if you're Brent Burns, do you not just point at Dustin Byfuglien's contract and say, I want that, and be completely justified in doing so?
I don't know. What's Byfuglien getting? I don't know.
Byfuglien
in front of me.
I don't care. Does it matter what Byfuglien's getting? Burns is a better defenseman.
Yeah. Byfuglien's getting 7.6. First 2 years are a no move. The last 3 are no trade.
And who's Byfuglien with right now? Winnipeg?
Winnipeg.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Winnipeg's going to overpay.
Yeah, so Thornton did have between 08 and 11, Thornton had a $7.2 million deal.
Okay, well, so anyway, my point is, does Burns push the ceiling that the Sharks, does he break the glass ceiling, so to speak? Does he become the highest paid Shark in a season after, a year from now? That's the sound of my question, and it would be hard to say no if he once again is a Norris nominee or hell, even wins it next season.
Yep.
The other two that he faced off against both now have Norris trophies, so maybe it's easier for a guy who doesn't have it to get it if Burns shows another season, because I think we had talked about this earlier in the season that Burns coming into the season, I mean, we know there were a couple people that just could not let go of the idea of moving Burns back to forward. But I think it's fully entrenched now. Burns is a defenseman. That is what he's going to be. So, and he definitely looked more and more comfortable as the season progressed. We all know the Paul Martin effect had a little bit to do with that. So if he ends up just being even better, can put together another Norris campaign, are we going to see him get 7.8, maybe even 8 million on his next deal? Is he going to be the guy who breaks the glass ceiling for the Sharks? I think I think it could happen.
Yeah, I mean, and Doug Wilson has been able to sign guys under, team-friendly deals. So would Burns taking a hometown discount wouldn't surprise me at all. But I don't think we should just sit here and expect it. No,
not at all.
This is a guy that, he might like the Bay Area, but you know what? It's business.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. He can raise reptiles in any city.
Yeah, absolutely.
He didn't bring the snakes to San Jose.
And we don't. And here's the thing: it's not just Burns; it's also Thornton. It's Marleau that year. If let's say Doug Wilson decides that, I mean, I think Burns is going to get extended before any of this even becomes a thing. But does Burns want to stay if Thornton's gone? They seem pretty tight. You never know, right? Like there's other little factors that can come into play.
They definitely seem really tight, but it does feel like Burns has kind of embraced the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. He definitely seems to like the. It's so funny that we've heard about it, that it's difficult to get players to come to San Jose or whatever that BS mantra is about, and then yet once they're here,
they don't leave.
Yeah, it seems it's like they love it here. Whether it's the fans, the building, the weather, the area. There's something about Northern California that definitely is appealing to specific players. Now, granted, maybe there might be a couple players that want to be the big fish in the big pond. Maybe they want to be the big name in Toronto, or they want to be in a hard, quote unquote hardcore hockey market, but hey, let's see what Burns can pull off, but obviously we want to keep him and see what happens. But with that, outstanding, moving on.
All right, so just to wrap up on that, do you think
who are we keeping?
Who are we keeping? Nobody. Let's talk about our RFAs quick. So obviously Nieto, I think this kind of drops his value a little bit. I think he could probably expect more like in the 1.2 range. DeMello, Carpenter, look, I think DeMello gets a one-way deal to replace his two-way deal and maybe makes about the same money. I don't think he needs a significant raise. I still think he's in the plan for next year, so maybe they give him a one-way deal. Carpenter obviously sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, how do you make it a one-way? I'm assuming a one-way deal means that he cannot be sent down.
Yeah, you can. You can send anyone down. You just Can't
Well,
be
what's the difference between a one-way and a two-way?
a two-way deal. You get paid a different amount when you're in the minors, whereas a one-way deal you are paid the same amount whether you are in the AHL, ECHL, or the NHL.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm sorry. Then absolutely, I agree with you. One-way deal, absolutely perfect. Same with Nieto. Yeah. Once again, this goes back to the fact that I would have no problems moving Nieto. I wouldn't mind moving him tomorrow. You know, the current version of Torrey Mitchell, all feet, no hands, not much in the way of finish. It would mean something to me if he was like a huge penalty killer and he used all that speed to really kill the penalties. But I just don't feel like we see that enough from him. DeMello, obviously, you keep whether he's going to be the sixth guy. He's a great insurance policy to have as the seventh. And Carpenter, unfortunately, I just don't know about. But
that's a Kuhre signing. I mean,
he's AHL captain.
Yeah, he's probably you're probably right, Rocky. He's probably the captain of the AHL team next year.
Who can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Who's the former captain?
Ryan Lurg.
See, it's just because I wanted everybody to do that. That's the only reason why I asked.
So, I guess the question I asked before you completely move off from this topic is, does this mean that Doug Wilson's going after a bigger fish, or is this just some nice cushiony cap space suddenly?
Well, Haas has always said that he would let Doug spend all the way to the cap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But there's a difference between spending money because you have it and spending money to get the right pieces. That's what I'm worried about, is what are the right pieces to add on. We obviously know that Pollock, Spalling, Zubris, those guys are not coming back. So what are you going, is Jeremy Waugh going to be able to fill Pollock's spot? Or is there somebody else you have to go out and get? Is DeMello going to be the guy who fills it? Is Mirko Mueller going to be the guy? And then you obviously have the holes at forward on the fourth line, whether it's Zubris or Spalling. Is Goldobin going to be your guy? Is Goodrow going to be your guy? Or is there somebody that you're going to go out and look for? That's my thing is, you've got, what are we talking about, 6 to 7 million potentially to play with. Who's available? You have to sign
a backup goalie.
Yeah, exactly. And who's out there, who's available, and who's going to fit that makes it better. Obviously, judged on the series against Pittsburgh, you're going to want some speed.
A little bit.
But and obviously we can go back to the whole Nieto thing. Now, granted, if he could kill penalties a little bit, but anyway, it just comes down to what are the right pieces,
right,
to spend that money on.
And that's interesting, because I was surprised that, like, with Doug Wilson letting everyone walk, and it's kind of curious to hear everyone's thoughts on this, because Doug Wilson basically says expect all the people, all the UFAs to watch. Pretty price for some of those guys to completely, like, even a guy like Jeremy Morin, who was playing in for the Barracuda, not qualified to bring back. Like, how do you guys feel about that? Like, obviously, Stanley Cup final, awesome. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I wouldn't trade that for anything, but at this point, is Stanley Cup final good enough for the assets we move to get players that we are not keeping, including players like Warren, who I don't think were that bad for the Barracuda. Maybe he's not, maybe he doesn't have NHL upside, but he could make the Barracuda a better team possibly next year. I guess I'll start with Rocket.
Okay, so to answer, you have to look at what they plan to do with the AHL in order to answer that question too. And since Brian Lurg left and they're starting to sort of shed the journeyman and start to get these really, really kind of, tasty prospect pools, you have to wonder if maybe like the entire system is shifting and that they have up and coming talent in the pool. They're ready to develop it. They don't need the guys from last year. They don't need them. Like, that's not part of the program. They were there. They sufficed. They paid too much for them, whatever, and it's time to let them go. That's just how it works. So what, you didn't get everything on clearance for 20% off? Big deal.
AJ.
I wasn't really listening to the question. What did you want to know?
Oh my God, you sound like me.
Erik, go ahead, and then AJ will grab a clue.
Well, Rocket kind of makes a good point there. Where are you going with the Barracuda? Who's coming up? I mean, to me, in my mind, it's almost like Timo Meyer is going to be on the team next year. It's like who else is going to be with the Barracuda? You have what, Chartier, LeBlanc, Waugh.
No
Wall
Satterwhite.
will be back in. Wall will be back in Quebec. Mark my words.
But I mean, there's a good healthy pool there. What can they do to bring in that will fill in now? I mean, let's think about this here. We're pretty much set on top 6.
Yeah.
So I mean, as much as I would have loved to Photoshop Steven Stamkos in a
Hold on.
Sharks jersey.
Well, hold on. We're talking. We're
happen.
filled in top 6. So say your third line is Tierney centering Wingles and Nieto. So you're basically just trying to fill out the bottom 3. So there's a point to be made for Goldobin, Gaudreau, and maybe Meyer if you get lucky.
I think Meyer's more of a sure thing to make the roster this year than Goldobin.
Okay. So
that's just my opinion. Yeah.
Okay, no, and that's fine. But that's what I'm saying is
about Meyer.
I'm stoked, you guys.
it's trying to find those pieces, because we've seen this, that's been a drum that a lot of Sharks quote unquote fans like the way I did that have completely berated the bottom 6. Now, granted, there's been a little bit of reason to do that, but it seems like that's always been like the downfall of the Sharks over the last season, notwithstanding, but previous, that was the problem for the Sharks. It was that the top 6 were always great. It was always no depth, nothing, no contributions from the bottom 6. So who are the guy, or what pieces are out there that are third and fourth liner guys that can contribute to this team now and over the course of the next season or two? Now, are we happy about Pollock not coming back? I am. I'm very happy about that.
Although I've heard that the Kings are shopping him now.
Oh, good for them. Zubris.
I'm not kidding about that either.
No, that's the best part of it all.
Zubris not coming back. Hey, you know what? Good soldier while he was here, did exactly what he was asked to do. I was fine with that. Spalling, I'm actually a little surprised that they didn't try to work out some cheapy deal with him to try to keep him around. I thought for what he was asked to do, I thought he did a good job. And of course, Reimer, we're not going to be able to afford him. So with that, I'm fine with that. And anybody who sits there and tries to say something along the lines of, oh, well, look at everything that that Wilson gave up to get these 4 rental guys. Let me remind you, 2 wins away from the cup, so just save it.
Thank you.
But with that, I just want to know what those pieces are. I'm excited to see what Wilson comes up with once July 1st kicks in. But I'm fine with everybody. Like I said, Spalling is actually the guy that I'm surprised about. But the rest of them, I got no problem with them walking. I do wonder what the question mark behind Jones will be, because I definitely don't want to burn out Jones. I don't think we need to see Jones playing 73, 74 games.
Right.
So
and you'd think, like, on that topic, because I basically agree with your list. I mean, Pollock, that's fine, he can go. I think that you can find that type of player with probably a little more mobility in the free agency for not much more, or even the same amount. Spalling, I was surprised that they were going to let go. I thought out of all the guys, Spalling would be a guy that would make sense to keep. Reimer, I'm not so sure we lose Reimer anymore. Reimer could be that guy behind Jones based on what's happened to the market, because
it seems like all the I don't want to say usual suspects, but like the most likely places honestly, one of the first places I thought of was Calgary. Like how great of a fit that would have been, and then bam, they go out and get Brian Elliott. So I was kind of like, that was like my top place that I would have seen him going. Not to say that he won't. I mean, I'm certain he won't end up in Dallas, but there's there might be one or two teams. That's why I'm saying maybe Tampa Bay tries to make a run at him if you know that Bishop is not going to be with you next season.
Oh, they still got Vasilevsky and good luck. Yeah, you Latvian kid.
I'm just what about who's riding the pine behind Bobby Lou in Florida?
Al Montoya, who's a UFA, so that's a guy.
Give me a break, Montoya. So, so maybe Florida makes a run at Reimer, but either way, exactly what you're saying is that 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, there seemed to be at least 5 or 6 quality locales that Reimer appeared destined for, and like 3 of them have filled the slot. So, hey, maybe we do get lucky. Maybe he enjoys surfing in the Bay Area and the weather.
Yeah, I think, go ahead, Rocket.
I think he likes it here, and I've said this on multiple occasions that I think he'd be willing to take a little bit of a pay cut in order to do, almost nothing not almost nothing, but just go in and be brilliant and wonderful every single time he goes in, but not have the same amount of pressure, and just get a ton of love from the fan base around here. Like, maybe he just wants that. And also to have, like, a good shot at the cup again.
Yeah, that would be nice. But you look at what he did during his regular season here. Didn't he, have 8 starts and 3 of them were shutouts? I mean,
something like that. Like,
and now, small samples, like everybody in that goddamn quote.
But that's the important thing about backup goalies is that you only have a small sample size to play with before
you only need
they
a small
determine
sample.
whether or not you're terrible or you're brilliant. So,
right, but at the end of the day, I think Reimer wants to be a starter, and he wants to be paid as a starter. The problem is that in the wonderful game of musical chairs that is goaltending, the music stopped, and I don't think there's a chair for Reimer.
Yeah.
So,
Puck guy?
I was going to say, it would be great to re-sign him and then have that as potential trade value at the trade deadline. But to have him work 20 to 30 games, give Jones the rest. He really didn't get too much this season until March when he arrived. It would be beneficial in the long run. You kind of get to learn Reimer's tendencies a little bit more. It'd be great. However, Anaheim has an opening for a backup spot, so I'm wondering if he heads down to Disneyland.
I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. Neither do I. And St. Owen saying Reimer's just biding his time until the Las Vegas franchise starts.
And that's
Exactly.
He's not wrong though. Kevin is not wrong because he can basically play backup for a year wherever. If he's playing backup, he's probably 99.9% chance getting taken in the expansion draft. So whether it's here, maybe he goes to or maybe he can go to a place like Arizona, and this isn't my idea, so I can't take credit for this, where you have a guy like Mike Smith who's not, who's not, doesn't have a no movement clause, doesn't have to be protected, and hope that they take a bite on him and protect Reimer instead. And then he's, hopefully they take Mike Smith and Arizona isn't a disaster with, Dallas-like goaltending issues. That's an option too. So I think that, that's where Reimer is really going to get a chance, is regardless of where he ends up, unless he gets a starting job somewhere. I just don't see where there's one available. Chances are he just takes a backup position and bides his time and waits for Vegas to come calling.
Moving on.
Moving on here. I think we kind of just really covered everything. So we did have the draft quickly, and I'll recap this nonsense. Yay, draft! Let's see if the website.
Is there anybody significant that we really need to cover that the Sharks took?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Well, no, but I got to do it anyway. All right,
It was
Wendell,
the
I'm
most
going to go.
boring draft ever.
It was underwhelming. All right, I'm going to quickly run through this.
Oh man, poor Wendell. His editing finger is going to be worn down to the nub.
He's going to hate me. Okay. Anyway, 3, 2, 1. All right. So the Sharks. Obviously, we just had the NHL entry draft. Sharks didn't have a fantastic draft at all, in my opinion. I gave the overall draft a C. Quickly, at number 60 overall, which was in the second round, they took a guy now by the name of Dylan Gambrell. Dylan Gambrell's an interesting prospect. He's put up some decent points in the University of Denver, but the problem is with this guy is he is a double overager and was probably a 30 to 40 ranking reach by the Sharks. So with the players that were still on the board when this guy was taken, it's unconscionable. Like it's awful, and I don't like it. I like the player, but where he was taken is absolutely ridiculous. In the fourth round, number 111, though, they did redeem themselves. They took hands down my favorite player in the draft in Noah Gregor. Noah Gregor is a centerman who plays for the Moose Jaw Warriors in the Western Hockey League. 6 foot, 180 pounds. Super competitive guy. I'm really excited about him. I can't wait to watch some WHL games next year because they're going to be, I have some guys to watch again. Fifth overall, number 150, we took a guy named Manuel Virer. He plays for the Moncton Wildcats of the QMJHL. Again, another guy who was overage, but when you're talking the fifth round, you can kind of take gambles like that. The only thing that I have a concern with this guy is that he went from playing with adults in the German leagues to playing with kids in the Q, and his stats basically exploded. And I don't know if, you have to take that with some skepticism when a guy goes from playing with adults to playing with kids. So I gave the pick a C+. At 180, the Sharks took a big stay-at-home defenseman by the name of Mark Shoemaker. He plays for the North Bay Battalion in the OHL, so I have a guy that I get to go and watch. Look, not a super sexy pick. 6'2", 209 pounds. He's kind of a raw talent. He doesn't really have, he's got a lot of work that he needs to do on his game, but he's got a lot of decent raw talent. It's just whether they can refine it into, making him something that's not just a AHL defenseman. I gave that pick a C. And at the last, in the seventh round, 210, they took a guy named Joachim Blickfeld. He plays for Malmo Redhawks in the Swedish Elite League. He was also, though, important to note, he was drafted by, I believe, the Portland Winterhawks in the CHL import draft. So he could be coming over to North America, which is super, super important. Also, another player drafted was Balsers, and I believe he went to Kamloops, I believe. I may have that backwards. But so two prospects that might be coming over to North America, obviously very important when you want to get them going in your system. I'm going to bring back up the chat now, see if I missed anything. No. Okay, I guess that will bring us to rapid fire. All right. The worst kept secret in the NHL. Vegas team official.
Oh.
Yay.
What?
Wendell would like to send a big poo-poo face to all of you people who said that wasn't going to happen. This is something we'll talk in depth on a later podcast. There's really nothing new to talk about here other than the fact that it's official.
We just know that Wendell is outside T-Mobile Arena right now waiting for those Black Knight merchandise to go out on sale.
Yep.
Absolutely.
First off, I still don't think that's going to be the name of the team. Number one. Number two, I'm still going to ride my horse that says this is a bad idea.
And you and Wendell can argue about it on a later podcast.
Yeah, I still think this is not. I'm going on record now. This will not work. It would not surprise me if the Las Vegas franchise in less than a decade is relocated. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead. What's next?
Fighting. All right. Jason Zucker gets a new two-year, $2 million deal with the Wild.
Oh, good for him.
It's a good deal. Good deal.
Good job, Wild.
Seth Jones, 6 years, $5.4 million AAV with Columbus. Obviously, a huge must-do for Columbus after they traded Ryan Johansson. They had to get him under contract. They had to get him out before, just like Hertl, we needed to get him on a contract before the offer sheets could come out. So I think that's an amazing deal for Seth Jones. I think the price is right. I think the term's right. Any thoughts?
No, NHL Network loving that deal. Very
that's
good
a
deal.
Great deal. And considering that Demers wants 5.5.
Are you kidding me, Jason Demers? Have another drink.
Somebody, I read something on Twitter the other day that said Jason Demers is going to be a really nice addition to the KHL in a couple of years.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't know if I
you
go
want
that far.
to talk about a guy who is
wasn't me.
overestimating his value.
Yeah.
Jason
Is he?
freaking Demers.
Remember when Matt Irwin wanted like $3 million?
Yeah. And see, that's the whole thing. You can value yourself as much as you want. Let's look at what's out there. The fact of the matter is, dude, if you were as great as you thought you were, you wouldn't have gotten traded for Brendan Tire-Fired Dillon, okay?
Bam. All right. As we alluded to earlier, the Calgary Flames traded the 35th overall pick in the NHL draft and picked up Brian Elliott. To me, this is a awesome deal, and I am going to probably make myself look like an idiot because I am back on the Flames bandwagon this offseason. I think that they are a playoff team again.
Wow. I never left. I think the Calgary, as much as I think that a lot of people thought that they might have overachieved the previous season, I think they underachieved significantly this last season. I'm totally down to Calgary making the playoffs this season, or if they miss it, it's going to be like they're going to be fighting for it in April. You know, and we talked about this almost a year ago for the preview show. We both had Calgary on our radar, and a lot of it came down to the fact that we thought that their defense, top to bottom, was one of the best balanced. Not the best, not that they had the best 1-2 punch, but 1 through 6 really well balanced. And it all came down to if they got a goalie that could help them shore things up, they'd be in it. The thing that actually surprises me is that they went for Elliott and not Reimer, because I think the cost to Calgary would have been cheaper.
I don't know, 35th overall pick for a goalie that's going to hold you over. It's not a bad deal.
No, but wouldn't you think that to get Reimer would have been less payout than a 35th pick?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. Like, it depends if you actually can get Reimer under contract. I don't know.
Okay.
That's a big if, right? Like, a lot of people were like, I mean, you think of this. If you want to talk about things, like a lot of people were talking about, like, where's Stamkos going to play? Like, now that they've got Austin Matthews, when they get Stamkos, do they really need Austin Matthews? And obviously the answer is yes, because Steven Stamkos isn't a for sure thing. You kind of got to take what you can actually get instead of the hypothetical. So also from the draft, just a couple of these things are just big deals from the draft. Detroit traded the contract of retired Pavel Datsyuk, retired, to the Coyotes for draft pick number 16, which they used to select Jacob Chekrin, who had fallen down the draft significantly, for the 20th overall pick, which turned out to be Jens Chalowski, and the contract of Joseph Vitale.
Ian,
yes.
Why did the Coyotes make this deal?
Because they are going to.
Are they trying to hit the floor?
This deal, yeah, I think. Look at you take this deal because when you're not, Arizona's not quite ready to be competitive. They've got a lot of good pieces. These pieces need some seasoning. They're not ready yet, though. So you take a year of this deal. It eats up cap space. It's a good deal for them because it does, again, help them get to the floor. But it also, you get that player, though. You got Jacob Chekrin, which was a guy who many thought was going to go possibly in the top 10, probably no later than 12, I think most people had him. So to have him free fall to 16 was pretty significant. And, and they don't have to spend their actual money. And when they are competitive, this deal's going to come off the books and they're going to have money to spend.
That great leadership core of Pavel Datsyuk and Chris Pronger, that's going to work wonders for the Arizona Coyotes.
Dude,
I'm just saying.
How pissed off was Shane Doan when he saw his phone light up and said, "You've got someone to pass to." Oh, it's Pavel Datsyuk.
Oh.
You finally have a top forward to get the puck to. Oh, Shane, sorry to tell you, it's this guy.
All right. One more thing here, a couple more things here. Montreal trades Lars Ellers for 2 second-round picks. This is when Montreal was still smart, by the way, and I actually thought they had a good draft. They traded Lars Eller for 2 second-round picks. They moved two. They weren't the same picks, but they moved 2 picks to get Andrew Shaw, who they signed for 6 years, $3.9 million AAV. I didn't love the term, but I liked the dollars. Chicago used their picks to draft Alex DeBrincat and Chad Chris.
Who?
Everyone. Okay, so Alex DeBrincat.
Oh no, I was kidding. Nobody
Okay.
knows. Nobody cares.
Everyone cares. Alex
We know.
DeBrincat is my favorite junior hockey player to watch. He's small,
Oh,
but he
good
is
for
awesome.
you.
Chad Chris is a defensive prospect who was basically, with Noah Hannafin leaving, was basically the main guy for the U.S. National Development Team program. So that's a nice pickup for them. Also,
So is it worth the move?
absolutely. Everyone won here but Washington. I think Washington came out looking really dumb.
Wow.
Go trade 2 picks for Lars Eller. It's not right.
Cool.
Buyouts so far: Thomas Vanek, Chris Higgins, Brad Stewart. No, we do not need Brad Stewart back. And Fedor Tweeten, whatever.
Tootin!
Yes, Fedor Tweeten. Fedor Tweeten's an interesting one because he had a no movement clause, so by him buying out, that is one less guy Columbus will have to protect in the expansion draft. So
Poor
AJ,
Thomas. Well,
you
no,
wanted to cover something quickly before we jetted away from this wonderful show?
just a couple quick things. Poor Thomas Vanek. Dude, love you, bro. Like 6 years ago, you put up big points for me in fantasy, so kudos to you, bro. Now, just 2 quick things that came to mind over like the last day. First off, really, and like I said, I know we're running long, so I'm going to try to burn through this really fast. Really quickly, number one, talking to a buddy of mine, we were covering that the runner-up for the Stanley Cup, so whoever loses in the final over the last 10 years has not had a very good next 5 to 10 years. If you look at Edmonton, lost in 06, hasn't been to the playoffs since. Ottawa, after losing to Anaheim, hasn't been stellar since then. You've got Detroit losing to Pittsburgh in 09. Obviously when you lose guys like Datsuk and Lindstrom over those you're not going to look that great. Vancouver in 2011. I mean, are they circling the drain or what? So I'm just hoping that over the next, if you look at the last 10 years of what the runner-up has done, hasn't been great. I'm hoping that the Sharks break that break the trend. Secondly, Shark Packs. I plan on going to the Sharks are holding a 365 deal that they're trying to open house, sign people up, get them going, and I plan on going tomorrow just specifically to ask what is going on with Shark Packs. Why does it seem that you've eliminated them? What's going on? Because it seems like a lot of fans are asking about that and they're not getting any answers from the Sharks on that, because I know Puck Guy would like a Shark Pack. I would like a Shark Pack. Rocket at least she wants the opportunity available to her if she wants it. So it's sad that it's not available. So something that we need to discuss and look into. And with that, take us home, Ian. Unless Erik, would you like to come with me to the 365 thing tomorrow?
I will let you know. That's a great idea. I need to get out of the house soon.
All right. What's up, Ian?
Okay, obviously, this is where we go away. So, AJ, tell everyone how people can find you.
Why, yes, I am AJ_Strong on the Twitter machine, and you can find my ramblings on pucknology.net. Rocket, what say you?
My name is Rocket Backhander. You can find me on Twitter at rbackhander76. That's capital R, capital B, little Ackhander76. Also, you can find me taking photographs on Instagram. It's one word, Teal Tinted Glasses. On Instagram, taking fancy hockey photos and all things teal. Rocket Backhander, signing off. Ian?
Erik.
And I am PuckGuy14 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, you can check me out on Snapchat. I'm also providing great content on pucknology.net, along with Pucknology After Dark, your favorite post-game show. Back to you, Ian.
Nice to know he has both a face and a voice for radio.
Traffic and weather together on the 8s.
I am Ian Reid. I am the director of content for Pucknology. You can find me on Pucknology when it's actually up and running.
Oh.
I know. Sick burn.
Oh.
You can find me on this, actually, very important thing. Teal Tinted Glasses not only on this channel, but I also do another show called the Pucknology Writers Room that is. And if you please could check out our previous shows. If you like what you see, please subscribe to this channel. You can also find me on Pucknology After Dark. You can find me doing this podcast. I write stuff. I'm on Twitter all the time at I Read Pucknology, saying all kinds of snarky hockey stuff. All in all, I do stuff. I'll be around all summer. So obviously, Mom, I don't know what I'm doing anymore, so please save me. Good night.